Come a little closer. Friend, not in a big way. Just in the small way a room feels kinder when you stop pretending you're fine. You don't have to fix anything tonight. You don't have to be impressive, or brave, or productive in the dark. If your day felt loud, let it stay out there. If your thoughts kept running, they can keep running for a while, like a distant highway, while you rest by the window. Let your body be the only thing you listen to right now. Notice the weight of your head on the pillow, the simple contact, the quiet pressure. Let your jaw loosen, just a little, as if you're taking off a tight collar. Let your tongue rest, and let the corners of your mouth soften. Like a small sigh you don't need to announce. Let your shoulders drop, not all at once, just enough to stop holding the day up. Feel the sheets under your arms, and let your hands unclench, even if they only unclench halfway. If your eyes want to close more fully, let them. If they want to flutter, that's fine too. Heavy is welcome here. Feel your breath smoothing on its own, like a lake settling after a boat passes. There's nothing you need to do with it. Just let it move, and let it be ordinary. Now, imagine your home, or your room, the way it looks when you come in at the end of a long day. Shoes at the door, a jacket hung up, a small pause before you speak. Tonight, you get to set something down, not forever, just for now. Maybe it's the work you carried, the emails, the meetings, the to-do list that kept multiplying like weeds after rain. Maybe it's family, the planning, the worrying, the small decisions that never stop asking for more of you. Maybe it's money, bills, budgets, that quiet arithmetic your mind does when it should be sleeping. Maybe it's responsibility itself, that feeling of being the person who has to remember everything. If your mind has been busy, you're not strange. A busy mind is like a jar that's been shaken all day, and the dust inside needs time to settle. So let the dust settle. Let the room dim, as if someone is turning down a lamp, notch by notch. Let the day be a bag you place by the door. You don't have to unpack it tonight. You can simply hear it land, softly, and know it's no longer on your shoulder. Things change, even the hard parts, even the thoughts that keep circling, even the moods that feel glued to your ribs. Tonight, you don't have to cling to what went right or wrestle with what went wrong. You can loosen your grip, the way a tired hand finally lets go of a handle. Kindness can be quiet. It can be as simple as letting yourself be human in your own bed. Patience can be small too. It can be giving your mind time to slow down, without scolding it for being fast. Forgiveness doesn't have to be a speech. Sometimes it's just not replaying the same moment one more time, in the same sharp way. When you're trying to rest, some of you came carrying a conversation you can't stop editing. Someone here may be holding a decision that feels heavy, like a stone in a pocket. Some of you came in with a smile for everyone else, and nothing left for yourself. I've heard this question many evenings, in many quiet rooms. Why can't I just turn my mind off? You don't have to turn it off. You only have to stop chasing it down the hall. If this gentle space helps you rest, you're welcome to subscribe and come back whenever you need a softer landing. And if you'd like, leave a comment with 1 if this helped tonight, or 2 if it didn't, so I can keep learning what you need. Now, let the room grow a little quieter, and when you're ready, I'll begin the first story, like a small lantern being lit, steady and warm. Story 1 inch the evening quiet. The Buddha stayed near Jetavana, where lantern light looked soft on the path. A young mother named Kisagotami came in, holding her child, her arms stiff with shock. She had walked door to door, asking for medicine, refusing to believe this could be the end. Her mind clung like a hand around a hot cup, even as it burned her. The Buddha listened, steady and kind, without rushing her grief. He asked her to bring a mustard seed from a home that had never known death. So she went, knocking gently, meeting faces that understood too well. Every house had its own story of loss. Some recent, some long ago. Her steps slowed, and the tightness in her chest began to loosen. She returned with empty hands, but with a clearer heart. The Buddha guided her to see how life changes, how nothing stays held forever, not as a cold idea, but as a shared human truth. Her breathing steadied, and her arms softened around what could not be kept. If you've been gripping something all day, a fear, a regret, a future you can't control, you're not alone. Sometimes the first relief is realizing you're not singled out by life. What we can't keep, we can still meet with tenderness. Put one hand on your chest, one on your belly, and feel warmth and weight for 1 minute. Then whisper to yourself, softly, "This is hard, and I can be gentle with it." Story 02. One bright morning, the Buddha was walking for alms, the air cool and clear. A feared man, Angulimala, ran toward him, wild with years of violence and remorse. He chased the Buddha, but could not catch up, as if the ground itself refused his old life. Angulimala shouted, confused and furious, demanding the Buddha stop. The Buddha did stop, calm as a tree in wind. He led Angulimala to see that the real stopping is inside, the ending of harm and chasing. The man's anger wavered, like a flame losing fuel. His shoulders sagged, and the swagger fell away. He saw his own mind, driven and starving, and he felt shame without escape. The Buddha offered a path of restraint and a new direction. Not punishment. Angulimala chose to change. Right there, with the dust still on his feet. Later, people still hated him, and stones were thrown. He learned to bear it without striking back, feeling the cost of his past and not adding more. If you've snapped at someone, or driven yourself too hard, you know how fast the mind can run. Changing doesn't mean erasing yesterday. It means not repeating it tonight. You can stop feeding the fire, even mid-step, for 2 minutes. Unclench your hands, then relax your jaw, then let your shoulders drop. Name one thing you will not add today. One harsh word, one extra spiral, one more self-attack. Story 03. At Jetavana. The day had been noisy, and the courtyard finally grew still. A woman named Patakara arrived, exhausted, her hair loose, her eyes empty with shock. She had lost family after family, like waves taking everything in one season. People had mocked her, and she had wandered without shelter or dignity. The Buddha's community brought her a cloth, simple and clean, and she covered herself. The Buddha met her with quiet steadiness, not startled by her pain. He helped her see that the mind can break when life hits too fast, and he showed that a broken mind can mend, slowly, with care. Later, as she washed her feet, she watched water flow over them and vanish. She began to feel how moments rise and pass, how nothing stands still. Her breath came back to her, one gentle breath at a time. She trained in steadiness, and her heart grew clearer. In time, she became a guide for others, especially those carrying heavy sorrow. If your life feels like it's been too much, too quickly, you are not weak for feeling it. Rest is not quitting. It's the first kindness you can offer yourself. When everything changes, you can still return to one small step. Look at one object near you, a pillow seam, a shadow, a corner of the room, and rest your eyes there for 1 minute. Each time the mind drifts, come back to that one quiet detail, gently, like returning home. Story 4, Inches a grove of trees. Monks gathered, and the evening wind moved through leaves like soft rain. One monk, Malunkyaputta, was restless, tangled in big questions he couldn't solve. His mind demanded answers the way an inbox demands attention. Again and again, he felt he could not practice unless everything was explained. The Buddha responded with a simple comparison. A person struck by an arrow, he said, who refuses help until every detail is known, will suffer longer. The point is to remove what hurts, not to feed endless debate. The monk's face softened, and his shoulders dropped. He could feel the cost of his mental arguing, how it stole his present hour. The Buddha guided him back to what can be known directly. This breath, this moment, this choice, not to shut down thinking, but to stop drowning in it. The monk became quieter, like a room after a door closes softly. If you keep reviewing every decision, every text, every mistake, you might recognize this pull. Some questions aren't solved by more thinking. They're soothed by living kindly right now. Don't ask the burning house to explain itself. Step outside first, for 3 minutes. Notice one thing that's actually okay in this moment. A warm blanket, a steady floor, a safe room. Let that okay be enough to rest your mind for tonight. Story 05. One afternoon, a group of villagers called the Kalamas came with worried faces. They had heard many teachers, many claims, and their minds felt pulled in 10 directions. It felt like scrolling opinions late at night and never feeling settled. They asked the Buddha how to know what to trust. He guided them gently, not by demanding blind belief. He pointed them toward checking what leads to greed, anger, and confusion, and what leads away from them. He encouraged them to notice the results in their own lives. When a path makes the heart harsher, it's a warning sign. When a path makes the heart steadier and kinder, it's worth tending. The villagers felt relief, like setting down a bag full of other people's arguments. They could breathe again, because their own experience mattered. They did not need to be perfect, only honest. If you feel unsure about work choices, relationships, money decisions, it can feel heavy, but you can ask one calm question. Does this make me tighter or more open? Trust what reduces heat in the heart. Place a hand on your chest and ask, what choice would leave me feeling more decent tomorrow morning? Write one simple sentence in your notes. Then stop and rest. No extra research tonight. Story 06. Early in the morning, The Buddha was resting when a man named Bahia arrived in urgency. Bahia felt driven, like he was late for his own life. He begged for guidance, his mind sharp and restless. The Buddha offered a very direct instruction, simple and immediate. He guided Bahia to stay with plain seeing, plain hearing, plain sensing, not adding a second story on top of the first, not turning each moment into a courtroom, a replay, a forecast. Bahia listened with full attention, as if the world got quieter around him. For a moment, experience was just experience. No extra burden, no self-attack, no desperate grasping. His breath slowed, and his eyes softened. Soon after, his life ended suddenly, and the community felt the sharpness of how quickly things change. The teaching remained, like a small lamp that still works when the power goes out. If your brain keeps narrating, replaying, predicting, this is a gentle place to start. You don't have to win against your thoughts. Just stop adding a third and fourth layer. Let the moment be simple again. For 1 minute, name quietly what's here. Warmth, weight, sound, darkness. Without judging it, then let the labels fade and rest in the quiet that's already present. Story 7 inches, the palace. King Pasenadi came to see the Buddha after a long day of duties. He looked tired in a way that wealth cannot fix. He spoke of worry, of power, of keeping things from falling apart. The Buddha guided him toward the difference between having and clinging. He pointed out how pleasure turns bitter when it's held too tightly, and how fear grows when the mind believes it must control everything. The king listened, the way someone listens when they finally admit they're overworked. He began to see that the mind can be a crowded room, even inside a grand palace. The Buddha encouraged steady attention and simple virtue, like small daily repairs, not dramatic, not showy, just reliable. The king's breathing eased, and his face softened. He left with less hunger for applause and more interest in peace. If you carry leadership at work or hold a family together, you might know that pressure. You don't have to hold the whole world tonight. Control is heavy. Care is lighter. For 2 minutes, feel the support beneath you. Mattress, pillow, a floor, as if the earth is doing the holding. On each exhale, let one responsibility fall from your shoulders. Just for now. Story 8 inches, a quiet corner of the monastery. A monk named Kulapanthaka struggled to memorize even a single line. Others learned quickly, and his shame grew like a knot in his throat. He began to believe he was useless, behind, not good enough. The Buddha met him without impatience. He gave him a simple task with a clean cloth, to rub it and keep noticing. As the cloth changed, darkening from use, the monk saw how things shift through contact. His mind began to clear, not through force, but through steady, gentle attention. The tight story of I can't started to loosen. His breath became slower, and his eyes steadier. He found a calm focus that didn't need comparison. In time, his understanding deepened, born from patience instead of pride. If you feel behind at work, or like everyone else has it together, this story is for you. Learning doesn't always look fast. It often looks faithful. Keep returning, even with small steps. Pick one tiny repeating action. Smoothing your blanket, resting your hand on the sheet, feeling the fabric. Stay with that sensation for 3 minutes. And each time you drift, come back without blame. Story 09. A man came to the Buddha carrying regret, tangled in what he had done and what he could not undo. His mind replayed it like a late-night movie he could not turn off. He wanted relief, but he also wanted to punish himself. The Buddha guided him towards seeing the difference between remorse that learns and guilt that traps. He encouraged making amends where possible, and then not adding more harm through endless self-hatred. The man's chest loosened a little, like a belt unbuckled after a long meal. He could feel that the past is real, but it is not a bed to sleep in. The Buddha's path was practical, not dramatic. Do what's helpful now, and stop feeding what's harmful now. The man's face softened, and he looked less afraid of tomorrow. If you've said the wrong thing, missed a deadline, disappointed someone, you might feel that familiar tightening. Be honest, be kind, and then let the night be the night. Learn the lesson, then release the whip. Write one line on your phone or paper. Tomorrow I will take one clean step. Name that step. Send that apology. Make that plan. Then put it down and rest your eyes. Story 10. On a warm day, a householder came to the Buddha asking how to live well in a busy world. He had duties, family, neighbors, and a mind that never stopped managing. The Buddha offered guidance for daily life, not just for quiet forests. He spoke about respect, honesty, responsibility, and wise companionship. He pointed toward caring for parents, partners, children, friends, workers, and spiritual guides with balance, not as a rule book to shame you, but as a way to reduce friction in the home. The man felt steadier, like a room being tidied, one corner at a time. He could see how small choices shape the feeling of a whole week. The Buddha's tone was practical, like good advice from someone who truly understands people. The householder left with less confusion and more direction. If you're juggling work and family, and you feel stretched thin, you're living this story already. You don't need a perfect life. You need a workable one. A calm life is built from small, clean actions. For 3 minutes, choose one kindness you can do tomorrow, one honest conversation, one small help, one boundary said gently. Picture it clearly, then let your body relax, as if the plan is safely placed by the door. Story 11 inches the afternoon shade at Jetavana. The Buddha sat while birds settled into the trees. A monk named Sona came, tired-eyed, hands rough from walking and effort. He had been pushing himself hard, then crashing, then pushing again. His mind kept saying, more, more, like a whip behind his ribs. He told the Buddha he felt stuck, and ashamed of being stuck. The Buddha spoke with the calm of someone who has watched many hearts learn. He compared effort to tuning a string on a lute. Too tight, it snaps. Too loose, it won't play. The middle way is not lazy. It's workable. Sona felt his breath slow down, as if his body finally heard permission. He saw he'd been treating practice like a deadline, not a path. He began to adjust, one day at a time, with steadier energy. If you've been grinding at work, running on caffeine and worry, you know this rhythm. Sometimes try harder is the wrong medicine. Try steadier. Try kinder. Try just enough. Tonight, relax your face and ask, what would balanced effort look like tomorrow? Choose one task to do well and one task to do later. Then let your shoulders drop and let sleep do its quiet work. Story 12. One day the Buddha was walking when a man stormed up, sharp with anger. He threw harsh words the way some people throw doors. The air around him felt hot, like a room with no windows. The Buddha stood still, not flinching, not fighting. He listened as if he had all the time in the world. When the man finally paused, the Buddha spoke about gifts. If someone offers something and it isn't accepted, it stays with the giver. Anger can be like that. Hand it out, hoping to land somewhere. The man blinked, as if hearing his own voice from far away. His chest rose and fell more slowly. He could feel how much he'd been carrying, and how little it helped. He left with fewer words, and a quieter face. If someone spoke to you today with a rough edge, you may still be holding it in your body. You can set it down without pretending it was okay. You can simply not pick it up again. Tonight, picture that harsh moment like a package on your porch. In your mind, gently slide it back outside the door. Then rest your hands and let the room be yours again. Story 13. At a monastery where monks lived close together, a quarrel grew loud and stubborn. Small disagreements became sharp, and the days felt tense. Everyone was certain they were right, and no one could soften. The Buddha came and urged them toward harmony and careful speech. But the arguing continued, like a pot boiling over. So the Buddha quietly left, choosing peace over winning. In the forest, he stayed simply, and the air around him felt spacious. Back at the monastery, the monks began to miss him. Without his steady presence, their noise felt heavier. They saw how their pride had crowded out what mattered. They went to him, admitting their mistake, asking to mend. The Buddha received them when their hearts were ready. If you've been in a conflict at work or at home, you know the exhausting loop. Sometimes nobody needs to be crushed for peace to return. Sometimes peace starts when one person stops feeding the fight. Tonight, think of one sentence you can say tomorrow that is both true and gentle. If you can't say it yet, just breathe and decide. I won't add heat, and let sleep be a fresh start, not a courtroom. Story 14. One evening, a young monk named Rahula came near the Buddha, quiet and watchful. He was learning how to live in a way that didn't harm. The Buddha guided him with simple images, not lofty words. He spoke about truthfulness, like water that stays clear when it isn't stirred with dirt. He urged Rahula to reflect before and after actions, to look, like using a mirror, at what a choice does to the heart, not to become perfect overnight, but to become honest. Rahula listened, steadying, as if a lamp had been placed in his hands. He could feel the difference between impulse and intention. He began to pause more and rush less. If your day is full of quick replies and fast decisions, you might recognize the need for that pause. A small pause can save you hours of regret. Tonight, let the mind rest from self-scolding and just become clear. Before sleep, remember one moment today you handled well. Then remember one moment you'd like to handle differently. Don't punish yourself. Just learn. Place a hand on your chest and say softly, tomorrow I'll try again with care. Then let your eyes grow heavy, and let the lesson sink in gently. Story 15. On a quiet morning, a group of monks gathered, asking about how to live wisely with teachings. Some were clinging to words, collecting them like trophies. Some were using ideas to argue, not to settle the heart. The Buddha offered an image of crossing a river. A raft is for getting across, not for carrying on your back forever. What helps you should be used, then set down when it has done its job. The monks grew quieter, as if something heavy slid off their shoulders. They could feel how grasping even good things becomes a burden. The Buddha guided them back to what is useful here and now. Not more collecting, more applying, more releasing. If you've been hoarding tabs in your brain, advice, podcasts, plans, it can feel like too much. Even self-improvement can become another kind of pressure. Tonight, you can travel lighter. Pick one helpful thought from today. Just one. Let the rest float away like leaves on water. Say to yourself, this is enough for tonight. Feel the bed holding you, and let your mind stop carrying the raft. And let sleep take you across in its own quiet way. Story 16. One day, the Buddha and his monks passed through a place where people were arguing about views. Each group insisted they alone were right. Voices rising and faces tight. The Buddha used a simple story about blind people touching an elephant. One touched the trunk and said it was like a snake. Another touched the leg and said it was like a tree. Each felt something true, but none could feel the whole. The point was not to mock, but to soften certainty. When we only touch one part, we can become rigid and loud. The listeners grew quieter, as if noticing their own stubborn grip. Some began to speak more carefully, with less pride. If you've been caught in online battles or family debates, you know how tiring it is. The mind wants to win, but the heart wants to rest. Tonight, you don't have to solve the world. You can admit, gently, maybe I don't see everything. That humility is not weakness. It's relief. For 1 minute, relax your brow and whisper, I can loosen my certainty. Then let the room be quiet again. And let sleep be your truce. Story 17 inches, a small hut where a monk lay sick. The air was still and close. The Buddha came and saw that the monk had been left alone. The man felt ashamed of his body and heavy with discouragement. Some had avoided him, as if sickness was inconvenient. The Buddha cared for him, arranging simple help, washing what needed washing. He then spoke to the community about caring for the sick, not as charity from above, but as human responsibility. He made it clear that tending others is part of the path. The monks' faces changed, and their hearts softened. They began to show up, not with big speeches, but with water, cloth, and presence. If you've ever felt like a burden when you're tired or unwell, this story holds you. Needing help does not make you less worthy. And if you've been the one always helping, you also deserve care. Tonight, offer yourself one small kindness the way you'd offer it to a friend. Adjust your pillow. Sip water. Loosen your shoulders. Let your inner voice become gentle, not demanding. Say quietly, I can be cared for too. Then let your body rest without apology. Story 18. One evening, a householder came to the Buddha, worried about loss and change. He had watched plans fall apart, and people disappoint him. His mind wanted guarantees. like a contract life would never sign. The Buddha guided him to see how clinging makes fear sharper. When you grip tightly, every change feels like theft. When you hold more lightly, change is still sad, but less frightening. He spoke about being wise with what you have while it's here, to love without squeezing, to plan without obsession. The householder's eyes softened, as if he finally exhaled. He could feel the difference between care and control. If you're worrying about money, the future, the people you love, you're not alone. The mind tries to protect you by grabbing harder. But grabbing doesn't actually make life safer. It just makes you tired. Tonight, choose one thing you can handle tomorrow. One practical step. Then let the rest be unknown. Just for this night, feel your hands open on the blanket. Whisper, "I can care without gripping," and let sleep come like a gentle loosening. Story 19. A man came to the Buddha with a restless mind and a craving for attention. He kept comparing himself, measuring his worth by praise and status. When praise came, he rose. When criticism came, he collapsed. The Buddha pointed to how blame and praise are both winds. If you chase them, you will never sit down. He guided the man towards steadiness that doesn't depend on applause, to do what is wholesome and true, even when no one claps, to receive words, pleasant or unpleasant, without letting them steer the whole heart. The man's breathing eased, as if he'd been holding it for years. He began to feel a quieter kind of dignity. If your job performance reviews, likes, or family opinions keep you up at night, this is familiar. You can respect feedback without becoming it. Tonight, let your worth be simple. Name one good effort you made today, even if nobody noticed. Name one kind restraint you practiced, even if it was quiet. Let that be enough. Relax your jaw, and let the winds blow outside your room. And let sleep be your steady ground. Story 20. On a hot day, a man came to the Buddha with a heart full of jealousy. He felt ashamed of it, but he couldn't stop comparing. Every success around him felt like a personal insult. The Buddha guided him toward noticing how jealousy burns the one who holds it. It promises protection, but it delivers pain. He encouraged a different response, rejoicing in goodness where it appears, not because life is fair, but because the heart can choose not to poison itself. The man listened, and the tightness in his face began to soften. He could feel how much energy he'd been wasting on someone else's scoreboard. He began practicing gladness for small wins, even ones that weren't his. If you've been scrolling and comparing, or sitting in meetings feeling behind, you know this sting. Jealousy is often just fear wearing a hard mask. Tonight, you can take the mask off. Think of one person who did well, and silently wish them well, just once. Then think of one small thing you did today that mattered, however modest. Place a hand over your heart and feel warmth there. Say softly, "There is room for me too," and let the mind settle, like dust sinking to the bottom of a jar. Story 21 inches, a quiet grove. The Buddha sat with monks as the light cooled into evening. A monk spoke up, weary from being judged and spoken to harshly. He said his mind kept replaying insults, tightening his chest all day. The Buddha did not dismiss him, and he did not call him weak. He used a strong image, meant to steady the heart, even if cruel people were to harm your body. He said, "Do not let your mind turn cruel. Do not answer pain with more pain. Do not answer heat with heat. He pointed toward a mind that can stay wide, even when the world is narrow. Not because you like what happened, but because you refuse to become it. The monk grew quiet, as if he'd been given a new place to stand. He could feel how anger promised strength, but delivered exhaustion. He began to practice patience that was firm, not passive. If someone's words followed you home today, you may still be carrying them in your shoulders. You can set them down without pretending they were fine. You can protect your peace by not returning the same sharpness. Don't let another person's storm become your weather. For 2 minutes, relax your hands and jaw, and picture a wide sky above you. Let any harsh words be small birds passing through, and let the sky stay open. Story 22. On a warm day, the Buddha spoke to monks living close together, where small frictions were common. 2 performers were discussed, an acrobat and his apprentice, working high above the ground. The apprentice wondered if she should watch only the master, to keep him safe. The master said each must watch their own balance, and both are protected. The Buddha used this as a teaching for daily life. Care for your own mind, and you naturally care for others. Lose yourself in someone else's mood, and you both wobble. Keep your attention steady, and you become a calm support. The monks listened, and their faces softened, like they could breathe again. They saw how blame and rescuing can both be forms of losing balance. They began returning to simple awareness, step by step. If you're managing a team, a family, a relationship, you may feel this. You can't hold everyone up by throwing yourself off the platform. Start with your own steadiness and let it spread. Balance yourself first, and you help everyone. Feel both feet or both legs under the blanket for 1 minute. Let your attention rest there. Then gently notice. Steady, and let the body trust it. Story 23 inches, the early morning. The Buddha walked with monks as the world slowly woke up. They passed a pond where foam gathered at the edge, bright and fragile. The Buddha pointed it out and used it to guide their seeing. A body can be like foam, he said, appearing solid, yet changing moment to moment. Feelings can be like bubbles, rising, popping, gone. Thoughts can be like a mirage, convincing from a distance, empty up close. He wasn't asking them to hate life, only to stop gripping it. When you see things clearly, you suffer less from the mind's exaggerations. The monks grew quieter, as if their inner pressure dropped. They could feel how quickly moods shift, how stories inflate and burst. They began to hold their experience more lightly. If your mind has been turning one worry into a whole future, you know that mirage. The mind can paint a disaster and call it realistic. Tonight, you can come closer and see what's actually here. What looks solid in the mind is often just passing foam. For 3 minutes, notice one thought arise and label it softly, thinking, then return to the feel of the blanket on your skin. Simple and real. Story 24. At Jetavana, a monk came to the Buddha with a face full of tension. He said his body hurt at times, and then his mind made it worse. He added fear, resistance, and a harsh inner voice on top of the ache. The Buddha described it with a clear image. When you're struck by one arrow, it hurts. But when you add a second arrow, your own mental struggle, you hurt twice. He guided the monk to meet pain without adding extra stories and blame, to feel what is there and release what is optional. The monk's breathing steadied, like the room became less crowded. He could see the difference between sensation and spiraling. He began practicing a gentler relationship with discomfort. If you've been tired, stretched thin, and then angry at yourself for being tired, you know that second arrow. Life gives enough challenges without the extra self-attack. Tonight, you can stop firing the second arrow. Don't add a second wound to the first. Place a hand where you feel tension most. Chest, belly, or jaw. For 1 minute, say softly, "This part hurts." And then, "I won't add more." Story 25. One day, a wild elephant was sent charging, and people scattered in fear. The Buddha stood calm, with monks nearby. The street suddenly wide and quiet. The elephant's power was real, and the danger was real. But the Buddha met it with a steady heart. He offered goodwill, not as a trick, but as a force without violence. The elephant slowed, then softened, as if its own panic drained away. It came close, no longer a storm, more like a tired animal finally safe. People watched, stunned by a calm that didn't fight. The Buddha showed that fear can be met without becoming fear, and that even a raging force can settle when it meets steadiness. If you've had a day where everything felt like it was rushing at you, you may recognize that stampede feeling. Your emails, your bills, your family needs, all at once. You can't outrun it forever, but you can meet it differently. Calm is not weakness. It is strength without sharp edges. For 2 minutes, feel your exhale lengthen naturally, without forcing it. With each exhale, imagine the inner stampede slowing. Step by step, let your shoulders drop as the dust settles. Story 26. One evening, a poor old woman came to the place where lamps were being offered. Others brought large gifts, bright oil, big flames, and confident smiles. She offered a small lamp, humble and quiet, almost easy to overlook. Later, the wind moved through, and many lamps went out. But her little lamp stayed lit through the night. People wondered at it, and some felt embarrassed. The Buddha pointed toward the power of sincere giving, not the size of the gift, but the heart that offers it cleanly. The woman's eyes softened, and her shoulders eased. She felt seen, not for her poverty, but for her goodness. If you feel like your efforts are small compared to others, you might carry that same quiet shame. But a small, steady kindness can outlast a big show. What matters is not how loud you are, but how true you are. A small, sincere light can last a long night. Think of one small good thing you did today. A patient pause, a gentle word, a task finished. Place a hand on your heart for 1 minute, and let that small light count. Then let yourself rest, without needing to prove anything. Story 27 inches, the town of Vesali. People were tense, and fear moved through the streets. They asked the Buddha for help, and he came with calm presence. He guided his attendant to recite words of protection and goodwill through the city. The sound moved like a cool breeze through anxious minds. People began cleaning, gathering, and caring for one another. The atmosphere shifted from panic to steadiness. The Buddha's presence did not erase problems instantly, but it changed how people held them. with more unity, more kindness, more courage. You could feel the town's breath slow down together. If your household or workplace has felt heavy lately, this is familiar. When stress rises, people turn on each other or shut down. A calmer tone can change the whole room. Sometimes peace begins with one steady person walking through, not adding fear. Bring steadiness, and steadiness spreads. For 3 minutes, lower your voice in your own mind. Soften your face, relax your shoulders, and silently repeat, "May this home be calm." Let that wish be your quiet offering tonight. Story 28. One day, the Buddha met a man struggling with anger that kept flaring up. The man said it felt like he had no choice once it started. It ruined his work, his relationships, and his sleep. The Buddha guided him to see anger's cost. Clearly and without shame. Anger can feel powerful, but it makes the face tense and the mind narrow. It often harms the one who carries it most. He pointed toward patience and careful attention as protection, not pushing anger away, but not handing it the keys either. The man's eyes softened, and his hands stopped gripping. He could sense the first spark earlier, before it turned into flame. If you've been snapping in traffic, in meetings, at family, you may know that regret afterward. You can learn the earlier moment, the first tightening in the jaw. That is where freedom begins. Small, but real. Catch the spark before it becomes a wildfire. For 1 minute, scan your face, jaw, throat, and shoulders. If you find tightness, soften it by a few percent, like loosening a knot. Then rest your hands open and let the body feel safer. Story 29. A monk came to the Buddha, proud of his abilities, hungry for admiration. He wanted to be known, to be special, to be above others. The Buddha guided him back toward a quieter kind of strength, real worth. He pointed out, is not built from showing off. It is built from less greed, less anger, less confusion, from restraint, honesty, and a mind that doesn't need a spotlight. The monk felt a sting, then a relief, like taking off a costume. He could breathe without performing. He began to practice more quietly, and his mind became less restless. If you've been chasing approval, trying to be perfect at work, online, at home, you know the exhaustion of it. Being impressive is a hungry job. It never ends. Being decent is simpler, and it feeds you back. Choose quiet integrity over loud approval. For 2 minutes. Let yourself be ordinary on purpose. Stop fixing. Stop proving. Stop rehearsing tomorrow's image. Feel your breath move, and let enough be enough tonight. Story 30 inches, a grove. The Buddha spoke with monks about staying safe from distraction. He used a simple story of a quail and a hawk. The quail left its familiar ground, wandered into danger, and was caught. It later spoke of staying within its own field, where it could move freely. The Buddha guided them to understand this as staying within what you can handle. When you chase every temptation, every argument, every worry, you get captured by the mind. When you stay close to steady attention, you have room to breathe. The monks listened, and some smiled, recognizing themselves. They saw how often they left their home ground and got snatched by impulses. If your phone, your inbox, your scrolling, Your late-night thinking keeps pulling you out of peace. You know that hawk. You don't need to fight the sky. You can return to your field. Stay close to what steadies you. For 3 minutes, choose one anchor you can feel. The pillow under your head. The blanket on your hands. Each time the mind flies off, return to that simple contact. Again and again, let your attention settle there, safe and quiet, and let sleep come gently. Story 31 inches. The cool morning at a riverside grove. The Buddha rested beneath tall trees. A monk named Meghiya came with a restless look, eager to go off alone. He thought a quiet place would fix his mind right away. But when he left, his thoughts grew louder, pulling him into craving and worry. He returned, embarrassed, like someone who took a day off and still couldn't relax. The Buddha met him with kindness, not blame. He pointed to supports that steady the mind, not just a pretty location, good companions, a life with fewer regrets, a balanced routine, and simple attention to what's happening now. He helped Meghiya see that peace is built, not found like a lost object. Meghiya's shoulders lowered as if he'd been carrying pressure to get it right. He could feel that running away from his mind wasn't working. He began to practice with steadier supports, step by step. If you've taken vacations and still felt your brain racing, you know this frustration. A new place doesn't always quiet an old habit. Sometimes the calm you need is a gentle structure. Peace grows with support, not with escape. Tonight, choose one support for tomorrow. One kind action. One simple boundary. One honest task finished. Then place your hand on your chest and say, "Steady is enough." Story 32 inches. The soft shade near the monastery. A young monk named Nanda walked with a heavy heart. He had left home, but his mind kept returning to the life he wanted. Desire tugged at him like a strong current, and he felt ashamed of it. He tried to force himself to be different, and only grew more tense. The Buddha understood and met him where he was. He guided Nanda to look closely at how longing works, how it paints the future bright and makes the present feel dull, how it promises comfort but keeps the mind hungry. Nanda began to see the difference between love and grasping. His breathing slowed, and his face became less tight. He didn't need to crush desire with harshness. He needed to understand it. With time, his mind settled, and his steps became lighter. If you've been craving a different life, a different partner, a different body, a different bank account, you know that pull. Longing can keep you awake, even when you're exhausted. Tonight, you can stop feeding the picture for a while. When you see craving clearly, it loosens its grip. For 2 minutes, notice one desire thought arise, and gently name it. Wanting. Then return to a simple sensation. The pillow, the blanket, the quiet dark, and let wanting pass by. Story 33. At a gathering place in a city, a wealthy supporter named Anathapindika lay very ill. His family and friends were close, their worry filling the room. A monk came to him with the Buddha's blessing to offer guidance. Anathapindika had done much good, yet fear still pressed on his chest. The teaching was gentle and steady, like a hand on the shoulder. He was guided to loosen clinging to the body, to possessions, to roles and status, to notice what he was holding. and to release it piece by piece, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, honest way. His face softened, and tears came, not from panic, but from relief. His mind became clearer, as if the room had more space. He felt gratitude without grabbing, love without squeezing. Those near him felt the calm spread, like a candle steadying in still air. If you've been lying awake, thinking about what could go wrong, you know that tight fear. You can't control every outcome, but you can soften your grip tonight. Let go does not mean you don't care. It means you stop strangling yourself with care. Release is a form of love. For 3 minutes, relax your hands open on the blanket. On each exhale, let go of one label. Worker, provider, fixer, and return to being simply human. Story 34 inches, a town where many teachers competed for attention. A respected man named Upali came to debate. He arrived confident, sure he would prove the Buddha wrong. His mind was sharp, like someone preparing for a tough meeting. The Buddha listened carefully and answered with calm clarity. He guided Upali to look at actions and their results. What leads to harm? What leads to peace? What makes the heart more tangled? What makes it more clean? The conversation stayed steady, without insults, without victory dancing. Upali began to feel his certainty wobble, not from humiliation, but from honesty. His voice softened, and he asked questions instead of throwing points. He felt the relief of not needing to win. In the end, he chose a different direction for his life, and the Buddha urged him to keep respect and fairness toward his old community. If you've been trapped in arguing, at work, online, at home, you know how tiring it is. Sometimes the bravest thing is to become curious again. You can change your mind without crushing anyone. Truth doesn't need shouting to be true. Tonight, pick one conflict you've been replaying and loosen your jaw for 1 minute. Ask softly, what would understanding look like here? Then let the question rest without forcing an answer. Story 35 inches, a quiet hall. A man named Sigalaka was seen honoring the directions each morning. He was doing a ritual he'd inherited, hoping it would keep life safe. The Buddha approached with a gentle interest, not mocking him. He guided Sigalaka toward a more living kind of protection. Not only gestures, but relationships handled with care. How to treat parents, friends, partner, workers, teachers, and those who depend on you, with respect, honesty, and balance. The man's eyes softened, like someone realizing there's a simpler way to live. He could feel the weight of superstition lifting. His mind became more practical, more steady. He saw that peace is built in ordinary choices, not only in special moments. He left with a sense of direction that fit real life. If you're juggling responsibilities and hoping you don't mess it all up, you might feel that same wish for safety. You don't need perfect luck. You need steady care. Start with one relationship, one clean repair. Your life becomes safer when your actions are kind and clear. For 2 minutes, think of one person you've been tense with. Plan one small respectful step for tomorrow. A message, an apology, a boundary said gently. Then let your mind unclench. Story 36. One day, the Buddha was harmed by Devadatta's attempt to cause injury, and pain rose in his body. Those around him felt shock and anger, ready to harden. The air was sharp, like a room after bad news. The Buddha met the moment with steadiness. He did not pour fuel on the fire. He held to patience and goodwill, refusing revenge. He guided the community not to let hatred become their new habit, not to let fear turn them into something they didn't want to be. People could feel how calm can lead. Even when the body hurts, the monk's breathing slowed. Like the whole group found the ground again. They saw that harm doesn't have to multiply. The moment passed without a chain reaction of violence. If your day included a betrayal, a harsh email, a cutting comment, you may feel the urge to strike back. That urge feels powerful, but it keeps you awake. Tonight, you can choose not to multiply the damage. Don't let one injury become a life of bitterness. For 1 minute, relax your forehead and let your hands rest open. Say quietly, "I won't add more harm," and feel your body soften around that choice. Story 37 inches, the deep stillness of night. A monk came to the Buddha, troubled by scary thoughts. He felt as if unseen dangers were circling him in the dark. His mind kept inventing threats, and his sleep was thin. The Buddha guided him toward a steady heart through goodwill, to fill the mind with friendliness, like lighting a lamp in a shadowy room. When the heart is not hostile, it feels less surrounded, not as magic, but as a change in the inner atmosphere. The monk practiced this, and his body began to loosen. His breath became smoother, and the night felt less crowded. He stopped feeding fearful images with extra attention. Over time, he rested more easily. If you've lain in bed and felt your mind scanning for problems, you know that tense listening. Sometimes the mind is just tired, and it makes ghosts out of leftovers. A kinder inner tone can quiet the whole system. A friendly heart sleeps in a safer room. For 2 minutes, place a hand on your chest and silently wish, "May I be at ease tonight." Then extend it gently. "May others be at ease too." And let the room soften. Story 38. On a bright day, the Buddha met a man obsessed with being seen as important. He wanted praise, reputation, and the last word in every room. When he didn't get it, he felt insulted and tight inside. The Buddha guided him to notice the cost of this hunger, how it turns every conversation into a contest, how it makes the mind fragile, depending on other people's moods. He pointed toward a quieter dignity, built from self-control and kindness, not needing to be first, not needing to be right, not needing to be admired. The man felt a strange relief, like taking off shoes that pinched. His face softened, and his breath came lower into his belly. He began practicing being helpful without needing credit. The world didn't collapse. It actually felt lighter. If you've been chasing recognition at work or feeling overlooked at home, you know that ache. Recognition is nice, but it's not sturdy enough to sleep on. Tonight, let your worth be simple and private. Let your goodness be quiet, and it will be steady. Think of one unseen helpful thing you did today, even small. Let that be enough, and relax your shoulders as if you've stopped performing. Story 39 inches, a small village. A man came to the Buddha worried about the mind's constant wandering. He said his thoughts jumped like monkeys, especially at night. He felt tired of himself, tired of trying. The Buddha guided him to see that wandering is not a personal failure. The mind has habits, like paths worn into the ground. You don't hate the path, you gently make a new one. He encouraged, steady returning, again and again, without harshness. Each return is a strengthening, like training a muscle. The man's face softened as he realized he didn't have to win in one day. He could work with his mind the way you work with a child, patient and firm. He left with less self-attack and more courage. If you've been overthinking in bed, judging yourself for it, you're only making the bed harder. Try gentleness. Try repetition. Try small returns. Tonight, you only need a little improvement, not perfection. Every gentle return is progress. For 3 minutes, rest attention on one simple sensation. Your hands on the blanket. When the mind wanders, say softly, back, and return without sighing or scolding. Story 40. One evening, a man came to the Buddha carrying worry about death and what comes after. His mind searched for certainty the way a hand searches for a light switch in darkness. He wanted reassurance that would erase fear completely. The Buddha guided him toward what can be known and lived right now, to meet life with kindness, to avoid harm, to care for the heart, to see that fear often grows when we demand guarantees we cannot force. He encouraged a steadiness built from how you live today, a clean conscience, a softer mind, a simpler life. The man's breathing eased, like he'd been gripping a rope too hard. He realized he could stop wrestling the night with impossible questions. He could rest in the goodness of his next step. If money worries, family worries, and future worries keep you scanning the horizon, you know this craving for certainty. You don't need to solve the entire future to sleep tonight. You only need one honest, kind next step. Live the next step well, and the mind grows calmer. For 2 minutes, ask yourself, what is my next clean step tomorrow? Name it in one sentence. Then let your eyes close, and let the rest be unknown for now. Story 41 inches, a bright palace hall. The air smelled of flowers and polished wood. Queen Kama sat close to her mirrors, proud of beauty and careful image. She carried the quiet pressure many people carry, to stay admired, to never fade. The Buddha came nearby, and she went to see him. Curious, but guarded. He did not scold her, and he did not flatter her. He guided her attention toward change, the way a body moves through youth and age. In the stories told of that day, she was shown a vivid picture of beauty shifting, fading, ending, not to frighten her, but to help her stop gripping what cannot be held. Her throat tightened, then released, like she'd been holding her breath for years. She felt how chasing perfection becomes a kind of hunger, and she felt a quieter dignity underneath all that effort. Her mind softened, and the room seemed less shiny and more real. If you've been trying to look perfect, perform perfect, succeed perfect, you know how exhausting it is. The body changes, the seasons change, the praise changes. You can still care for yourself without clinging to an image. When you stop gripping the mirror, you can finally rest. For 1 minute, soften your forehead, unclench your jaw, and let your face be neutral. Then whisper, I can be enough without performing, and let your shoulders drop. Story 42 inches. The late afternoon. A woman named Visakha came to the Buddha with wet eyes and a shaken voice. Someone dear to her had died, and the house felt suddenly empty. Her mind kept returning to the same thought. This shouldn't have happened. She was respected and capable, yet grief made her feel small and helpless. The Buddha received her gently. Like a steady lamp in a dark room, he guided her to look at love and loss together, without bitterness. When we have what is dear, we also meet the pain of change. He did not tell her not to care. He helped her see why it hurts. Her breathing slowed, and her hands stopped twisting in her lap. She felt the truth that love is real, and so is impermanence. The pain didn't vanish, but it became less sharp, less lonely. She left with a softer heart, not a hardened one. If you've been carrying a quiet sadness, even one you hide behind work and routines, you understand this. Grief can sit beside you in bed like a heavy coat you forgot to take off. Tonight, you can loosen the coat, even if you can't remove it fully. Loving deeply means life will touch you deeply. Place a hand on your heart for 1 minute and silently say, "Of course this hurts." Then add, "And I can be gentle with myself," and let your breath settle. Story 43 inches, a field outside a village. The Buddha walked where soil had been freshly turned. A farmer named Kasibharadvaja was working, sweat on his brow, mind full of practical worries. He saw the Buddha and challenged him, speaking from pride in hard labor. The farmer's life felt like many lives. Long hours, heavy responsibility, not much rest. The Buddha answered calmly. Without putting the man down, he spoke of his own kind of plowing, the inner work that grows peace. He pointed to qualities like trust, careful effort, honesty, and steady attention, not as fancy ideas, but as real tools that change a life. The farmer listened, and the tightness in his face softened. He felt respected, not preached at. He could see that inner training is not separate from daily work. It's what helps you carry daily work without breaking. If you're burned out, deadlines piling up, family needs calling, you may feel like that farmer. You're already working hard. The question is whether your inner world gets any care. Tonight, you can lay down the shovel for a moment. Outer work goes better when the inner field is tended. For 2 minutes, relax your hands and imagine setting down a tool. Say softly, "For now, I'm off duty," and let your body believe it. Story 44 inches, a quiet place near the city. Prince Abhaya came to the Buddha with a public problem. He was caught between people, politics, and the fear of saying the wrong thing. He wanted a clean rule for speech, so no one could blame him. The Buddha listened, calm and patient. He guided the prince toward a simple compass for words. Are they true? Are they helpful? And is this the right time? Even true words, he indicated, can be harmful when thrown like stones, and kind words lose power when they're dishonest. The prince's shoulders eased, like he'd been gripping his own tongue all day. He realized speech isn't about winning. It's about care and clarity. He left feeling steadier, less trapped by other people's reactions. If you're replaying a conversation tonight, worried about how you came off, you know this tension. You can't control everyone's opinions, but you can choose words that are clean and timely. Let your speech be true, gentle, and well-timed. For 1 minute, press your tongue softly to the roof of your mouth and relax your jaw. Then decide on 1 sentence you can say tomorrow that is both honest and kind, and let the rest go. Story 45 inches, a grove near the monastery. Some monks were tangled in arguments about teachings. They repeated words, but their minds felt sharp and competitive. The Buddha saw the danger, not in the teaching, but in the way it was held. He offered a strong image of a person catching a snake. If you grab it the wrong way, it turns and bites you. In the same way, holding teachings with pride or hostility can bring harm. He guided them back to humility and careful practice, not using ideas as weapons, not using knowledge to feel above others. The monks grew quiet, like a room after a storm passes. They could feel how their grip had been wrong. They began to hold the teachings like medicine, not like a trophy. If you've been gripping self-improvement too tightly, you may recognize this. Even good advice can bite when it becomes another way to judge yourself. Tonight, you can hold things more gently. Hold what helps you with care, not with clenched fists. Open your hands on the blanket for 1 minute. Imagine loosening your grip on one should and replacing it with, "I'll try again kindly." Story 46. On a clear morning, the Buddha was walking when he met a cowherd named Dunya. The man spoke proudly about his shelter, his food stored, his animals safe. He felt secure, like someone who finally paid off a bill and wants to exhale. The Buddha listened, then guided him toward a deeper kind of safety. Outer security is helpful, but it can change quickly. A steady mind, a harmless life, a heart not ruled by craving. These travel with you. The cowherd's pride softened into thoughtfulness. He could feel how easily the mind turns possessions into a fortress, and how tiring it is to guard the fortress all night. He began to see that contentment is not laziness. It's freedom from endless grasping. If money worries keep your mind busy, you understand the wish to feel set. It's okay to plan and work. Just don't let never enough move into your bed. True safety includes a heart that can relax. For 2 minutes, name 3 simple things that are already here. Warmth, shelter, a place to lie down. Let your body register. For tonight, I have enough. And soften your shoulders. Story 47 inches the early evening. A householder named Digga Janu came to see the Buddha. He had responsibilities, a family to support, and worries that followed him home. He wanted to live well in the world without losing his peace. The Buddha offered guidance that fit ordinary life. He spoke of steady effort, wise spending, and good friendships. He pointed toward protecting your livelihood without becoming greedy or careless. And he spoke of trust, ethics, generosity, and understanding as inner wealth. The householder felt relief, like someone finally handed a simple map. He could breathe, because the path wasn't only for monks, it was for parents, workers, exhausted planners, and people who carry a lot. He left with a calmer mind and clearer priorities. If your mind has been juggling bills, deadlines, and family needs, you know this load. You can build stability without turning into a machine. Tonight, you can let tomorrow be planned, but not obsessed over. Build both kinds of wealth, outer stability and inner peace. Write one line, tomorrow, I'll take one practical step, and one kind step. Name them, then put the note away, and let your mind unclench. Story 48 inches, a quiet meeting hall. A monk came to the Buddha carrying guilt and fear. He believed one mistake had ruined him forever. His mind kept replaying it, tightening his throat and chest. The Buddha guided him with a simple image of salt in water. A small amount of salt in a cup makes it undrinkable. The same salt in a river barely changes the taste. He pointed to the importance of growing the heart wide through goodness, not ignoring mistakes, but not shrinking into them. Make amends, learn, and keep building what is wholesome. The monk's eyes softened, like he could finally inhale. He saw he didn't have to be trapped in one chapter. He could expand his life with steadier actions. If you've been stuck in shame, replaying a regret at night, you know this bitter cup. You can widen the river by choosing the next clean step. Tonight, stop shrinking. A wider heart can hold a mistake without being poisoned by it. For 3 minutes, remember one good thing you did today, however small, and let it count. Then choose one repair you can make tomorrow, and let your body rest. Story 49. One night, the Buddha noticed a monk named Moggallana struggling with heaviness and drowsiness. The monk's mind kept dipping, like a candle flickering. He felt frustrated, like someone falling asleep during an important conversation. The Buddha offered practical guidance. Step by step, change your focus. He suggested, don't keep staring at the same sleepy thought. Recall something inspiring. Straighten the body. Refresh the mind. If needed, wash the face. Get up. Move a little. And then return, not with shame, but with skill. The monk felt relief, because the answer wasn't self-hatred. It was wise adjustment. He learned to work with his body, not against it. If you've been exhausted and then angry at yourself for being exhausted, you know that trap. Your body is not your enemy. It's asking for care. Tonight, you don't have to fight the tiredness. You can cooperate with it. Meet fatigue with skill, not blame. If you feel wired, relax your face and lengthen your exhale gently for 1 minute. If you feel heavy, slightly straighten your posture, then let it soften again, like finding the middle, and allow sleep to arrive as a friend, not a failure. Story 50 inches. A quiet grove after a long day. A monk came to the Buddha with a restless, craving mind. He said even when life was fine, he kept wanting more, and it made him tired. More comfort, more certainty, more praise, more control. The Buddha guided him to see craving as a kind of thirst. Thirst promises relief, but it keeps the mouth dry. He pointed toward contentment, not as giving up, but as unclenching, to enjoy what is here without demanding it become permanent, to plan without worshipping the plan. The monk felt his chest ease, like he'd loosened a belt. He realized how often he turned nice into not enough. His mind grew quieter, and he could finally feel the present again. If your brain keeps upgrading the future while you're trying to sleep, you know this thirst. It shows up as shopping thoughts, comparison thoughts, rumination, control. Tonight, you can drink from what's already here. Contentment is the mind resting its jaw. For 2 minutes, notice 3 simple comforts. The bed under you, the darkness, the quiet. On each exhale, whisper, enough for tonight, and let your body sink a little deeper into rest. Story 51 inches. The cool light of morning. The Buddha was staying near a grove where footsteps sounded soft on the earth. Mahapajapati, his aunt and foster mother, arrived with a steady face and tired eyes. She had cared for him long ago, and now she asked for a new kind of life. She wanted to leave behind the usual roles and train fully, like the monks did. It wasn't a small request, and it carried the weight of custom and fear. At first, she was turned away, and the refusal landed heavy in her chest. She didn't shout. She didn't collapse. She simply kept her dignity and kept walking. Later, Ananda spoke up, bringing her request again with care. He reminded the Buddha of her kindness and asked whether women could also awaken. The Buddha affirmed that they could, and the community's air shifted. Mahapajapati was accepted, and with her, many women who were ready to practice. You can almost feel the relief in their shoulders, like a door opening quietly. If you've ever felt dismissed, underestimated, or boxed in by someone else's idea of you, you know that ache. And if you've carried responsibility for years, you may also know the longing to live more simply. This story isn't loud. It's steady, like a small candle that refuses to go out. Quiet persistence can change a whole room. For 2 minutes, sit with your hands open and ask, what do I truly need more of? And less of. Choose one small shift for tomorrow, and let your body relax around that honest answer. Story 52. One afternoon, the Buddha sat with Rahula, his young son, in a calm, shaded place. Rahula was learning, like all of us, how easy it is to bend the truth. A small lie had happened, and it left a sticky feeling inside him. The Buddha didn't attack him, and he didn't excuse him either. He used simple objects to make the point clear. He showed how truth can be poured out and lost, like water tipped away. And he showed how a person who plays with lying makes the mind less reliable. It wasn't punishment. It was guidance, firm and caring. Rahula listened, eyes lowered, feeling the weight without being crushed by it. His breath slowed, and the urge to defend himself softened. He could feel that honesty is not about being perfect. It's about being clean inside, so you can sleep without rehearsing. If you've been worried about what you said, what you promised, what you're hiding, you know that restless night. Even small distortions can keep the mind buzzing like a phone that won't stop lighting up. Tonight, you can choose the simpler path. A truthful mind rests more easily. For 1 minute, place a hand on your chest and ask, what truth am I avoiding? Write one honest sentence, just for you. Then let your shoulders drop as if the secret weight is set down. Story 53 inches, a quiet meeting. A man named Diganaka came to the Buddha with a stubborn edge. He held his opinions tightly, like they were armor. He said he didn't agree with anyone, as if that made him safer. You could feel the strain in it, the effort of never softening. The Buddha listened without trying to win. He guided the man to notice something simple and immediate. Views rise and pass. Feelings rise and pass. The body shifts all day long. If you cling to any one stance as me, you create constant friction. He invited the man to watch experience instead of wrestling it. Diganaka's face changed, like someone unclenching a fist they didn't realize was tight. His breathing became less sharp. He could feel, directly, that his certainty had been costing him peace. If you've been clinging to being right, or clinging to being wronged, you know that tight jaw. Sometimes our strongest opinions are just fear trying to feel steady. Tonight, You can let the fear loosen without losing your values. You can be honest without being rigid. For 3 minutes, notice any strong thought and whisper, "This is a thought." Then return to one simple sensation, the weight of your body on the bed, and let the thought drift on. Story 54 inches, the stillness before dusk. A monk named Puna came to the Buddha with a clear request. He wanted to go teach in a rough, distant place where people were known to be harsh. The Buddha asked him carefully what he would do if people insulted him. Puna said he would consider it fortunate they didn't strike him. The Buddha asked what he would do if they struck him. Puna said he would consider it fortunate they didn't injure him badly. The Buddha asked what if they injured him badly. Puna said he would consider it fortunate they didn't take his life. And what if they took his life? The Buddha asked. Puna said he would meet it without hatred, not adding poison to the world. The air around them felt quiet. Like a deep breath shared, the Buddha affirmed his steadiness and allowed him to go. If your life includes hard people, sharp emails, tense meetings, family friction, you know that daily test. This isn't about letting others walk on you. It's about refusing to let bitterness run your mind. You can face hardness without becoming hard. For 2 minutes, relax your jaw and silently repeat, "I won't add heat." Picture one difficult person. Then picture your own calm boundary. And let your shoulders settle. Story 55 inches. A simple hut. A monk named Girimananda lay sick, weak and discouraged. His mind felt foggy, and the day felt too long. Ananda went to the Buddha, asking for help that could ease him. The Buddha offered a set of reflections meant to steady the heart. They pointed toward change, toward seeing things as not worth clinging to so tightly. Ananda brought these reflections back, speaking them gently by the bedside. The sick monk listened in small waves, like someone drinking water slowly. His face softened, and his breathing became less strained. The mind, which had been gripping, began to loosen. The body did not become instantly perfect, but the inner struggle eased, and that easing gave him strength. If you've been worn down, run thin, and then mad at yourself for being run thin. You know this double weight. Sometimes what heals first is not the body, but the fight inside the body. Tonight, you don't have to conquer anything. You can soften your resistance and let that be enough. When the fight eases, strength returns. For 1 minute, place a hand where you feel tension most and say softly, "Softening is allowed." Then rest, letting the body do what bodies do, recover in their own quiet way. Story 56 inches, the palace. King Pasenadi came to the Buddha with the tired look of a man carrying too much. He spoke of time moving fast, of years slipping through his hands, even with power and comfort. He felt a quiet fear underneath. The Buddha guided him with a strong image, clear and unforgettable. He described great mountains rolling in from all sides, crushing everything in their path. And he asked the king what he would do if that were happening. The king said he would live with care, live with goodness, live with restraint. The Buddha pointed out that aging and death move like that, steadily, without pause, not to scare him into panic, but to wake him into what matters. The king's face softened, like someone finally stops pretending time will wait. He felt urgency, but it was clean, not frantic. If you've been postponing rest, postponing kindness, postponing the life you mean to live, You know this nudge. Deadlines at work feel urgent, but so does the health of your heart. Tonight, you don't need to fix your whole life. You only need to choose what matters most. Gently, don't wait to live cleanly. For 2 minutes, ask, what would I regret not doing with kindness? Choose one small act for tomorrow. Then let the night be peaceful, not pressured. Story, 57 inches, a quiet hall. Monks gathered around the Buddha with a familiar complaint. They said unwanted thoughts kept dropping into the mind like clutter on a clean floor. Old resentments, cravings, worries, and replayed conversations. They tried to push them away, and the pushing made everything louder. The Buddha offered practical ways to work with the mind. Sometimes you replace an unhelpful thought with a more wholesome one. Sometimes you look at the cost of the thought until it loses its shine. Sometimes you turn attention away, like closing a door gently. Sometimes you soften the thought's shape by relaxing the body, and sometimes you meet it firmly, not with anger, but with steadiness. The monks felt relief, because the answer was skill, not shame. They could breathe, like someone finally given a mop and a bucket instead of blame. If your mind has been tossing you the same worries at bedtime, you're not broken. You're human, and habits are loud when the house is quiet. Tonight, you can respond with care instead of wrestling. You don't have to obey every thought. Choose one recurring thought tonight and label it softly. Old loop. Then relax your jaw and return to the feeling of your hands on the blanket for 1 full minute. Story, 58 inches, a gathering place. 2 young men, Vasetta and Bharadvaja, came to the Buddha with tension. They had been arguing about status, birth, and who counts as better. Their voices carried the strain of being measured and ranked. The Buddha listened, then guided them toward a different yardstick. A person isn't made noble by family name alone. What matters is how you live, how you act, how you treat others. He pointed toward conduct, honesty, restraint, and kindness as the real markers. The argument in their faces began to dissolve. They could feel the relief of stepping off a ladder that never ends. They didn't have to prove their worth through inherited labels. They could build a life by their choices. Day by day, if you felt judged by your job title, your paycheck, your education, your background, you know this pressure. The world loves rankings, and it can make your chest tight. But your character is yours to shape. Quietly, your worth is built by your actions, not your label. For 2 minutes, remember one choice today that matched your values. Let it count. Then choose one small value-based action for tomorrow, and let your body settle into the bed. Story, 59 inches, the shade of trees. The Buddha spoke to a monk who kept living in later. The monk's mind was always leaning forward, planning, worrying, rehearsing. When the present arrived, he missed it, like a man walking past his own home. The Buddha guided him back to the only place life is actually lived, not trapped in the past, not chasing the future, but awake to now. He didn't forbid planning. He loosened the obsession. He pointed out how the mind can create a second life of regrets and forecasts, and how that second life steals rest from the first one. The monk's breathing eased, like he'd been running while standing still. His shoulders dropped, and his eyes softened. He could feel the quiet dignity of being here, If tomorrow's tasks are crowding your pillow, you know this exact feeling. The inbox, the bills, the conversation you need to have, all marching through your head. Tonight, you can let tomorrow wait outside the door. The present is the only room you can rest in. For 1 minute, name 3 things you can feel right now. Warmth, weight, fabric. Each time the mind runs ahead, return to the word here and let your body sink deeper. Story 60. Late one evening, as lamps glowed low, a man came to the Buddha with a tense, guarded face. He said he wanted peace, but he also wanted revenge for a wrong done to him. His mind kept rehearsing what he would say, what he would do, how he would get even. The Buddha guided him to see what that plan was doing to his own life. Holding hatred, he indicated, is like carrying a burning coal in your hand. It hurts the one who holds it first. He didn't tell the man to pretend the wrong was okay. He guided him toward letting go of the poison, so his own mind could breathe again. The man grew quiet, as if he finally felt the heat in his palm. His shoulders softened, and his eyes looked less sharp. He could sense the difference between justice and obsession. If you've been replaying a hurt, especially at night, you know how it steals sleep. You deserve rest more than you deserve another round of inner fighting. Tonight, you can release the coal, just for now. Don't burn your own hand to hold on to anger. For 2 minutes, unclench your fists and open your hands on the blanket. On each exhale, imagine the hot coal cooling, then falling away, and let your jaw relax as the night grows quiet. Story 61. Inches. The evening, at a riverside town. The Buddha rested where the air smelled like water and reeds. A devoted man named Kavata came with bright eyes and a restless hope. He wanted the Buddha to have a monk perform a miracle, so the town would believe. You could hear the strain underneath, like a worker begging for a shortcut. The Buddha listened, steady, and did not shame him. He guided Kavata to see that miracles can impress, but they don't always change a heart. People can argue about wonders, doubt them, chase them, or turn them into gossip. What truly changes a life is learning how to meet greed, anger, and confusion with care, how to speak honestly, live cleanly, and steady the mind. Kavata's urgency softened, like a fist loosening around a plan. He began to feel that real peace is quieter than fireworks. It's the kind you carry home, even when nobody applauds. If you've been hoping for one big moment to fix everything, you're not alone. We all want a switch we can flip, especially when we're tired. But the deeper relief often comes from small changes you repeat. So tonight, let simple be your miracle. Let one kind choice, one honest pause, be enough. And for 1 minute, feel your hands open on the blanket, like you're releasing the need to prove anything. Story 62. Inches. A quiet grove. A monk named Vakali sat with a longing that made him ache. He loved the Buddha deeply, but his love had become clinging to a form. He wanted to keep the Buddha close, as if closeness could protect him from change. It left him restless, like a person refreshing their phone for comfort. The Buddha met him with warmth and firmness. He guided Vakali toward what truly matters, beyond appearance. Not the shape of a person, but the way of living that reduces harm. Not the comfort of looking, but the steadiness of understanding. Vakali's eyes softened, and his breathing became less tight. He could feel how attachment makes even love feel anxious. He began to turn his attention to practice, to kindness, to a clearer mind, and the love became less grabbing, more spacious. If you've been clinging to a relationship, a role, a version of yourself, you know that tight pull. Clinging says, stay, and life keeps saying, change. Tonight, you can let love be gentle instead of gripping. Let care remain, and let grasping loosen. For 2 minutes, relax your jaw and imagine your hands opening. Then rest in the quiet feeling of simply caring, without squeezing. Story 63. One day, as the light faded, a woman in hard labor suffered nearby, her fear filling the room. People were frantic, and the air felt sharp with helplessness. Ananda went to the Buddha, asking for a way to help. The Buddha turned to Angulimala, who had once lived a violent life and had changed. He guided Angulimala to visit the woman and speak a truth from his transformed life. Not a spell, not a performance, but a sincere statement of harmlessness now. Angulimala went, humble and careful, and spoke as he had been instructed. The woman's body began to settle, and the birth moved forward. You could feel the room exhale, like a door closing softly against panic. Angulimala's face softened too, as if a new kind of life became real. The teaching was quiet but strong, that change matters, and goodness can have weight. It showed that a person is not only their worst chapter. If you've been carrying shame, thinking you can never make it right, you know that heavy feeling. You may not erase the past, but you can choose not to add harm today. And that choice can become a shelter for someone, including you, tonight. Let your next step be clean, not perfect. For 1 minute, place a hand on your heart and feel warmth there. Then whisper, from this moment, I choose kindness, and let your shoulders drop. Story 64 inches, a busy town. A man named Magandia approached the Buddha with pride and strong opinions. He offered something he believed would tempt any man, and expected quick agreement. When the Buddha did not accept, Magandia felt insulted and tense. His mind tightened like a belt pulled too hard. The Buddha did not argue to win. He guided Magandia with a vivid comparison about pleasure and craving. He spoke of a leper who scratches sores and thinks the scratching is pleasure. The relief feels good for a moment, but it keeps the wound raw. In the same way, some pleasures feel sweet, but they leave the heart more hungry afterward. Magandia's face shifted, first resisting, then thinking. He could sense how desire promises comfort and then demands more. He began to feel the possibility of a calmer satisfaction. If you've been chasing relief through scrolling, shopping, snacking, or late-night fantasizing, you know that scratch and burn loop. It can feel good for a minute, then leave you emptier. Tonight, you can choose a gentler comfort that doesn't bite back. Let rest be your medicine, not more stimulation. For 2 minutes, notice the urge to reach for one more thing, and pause. Feel the bed under you, and let the urge pass like a wave that doesn't need to be ridden. Story 65. At the deer park, the air was calm, and the grass moved in a slow breeze. 5 ascetics sat together, still carrying the memory of harsh self-denial. They had pushed themselves hard, hoping pain would buy peace. When they saw the Buddha, they were guarded, unsure what to trust. The Buddha approached with a steady presence, not asking for admiration. He guided them toward a balanced path, not drowning in indulgence, not starving in extremes. He spoke about the way stress is built, the way craving fuels it, and how it can ease. He offered a practical training, a way of living and attention that brings clarity. Their faces softened, like someone loosening a habit of gripping. They could feel that punishing the body didn't heal the mind, and that pleasure chasing didn't heal it either. A middle way felt like real hope, not a slogan. If you've been swinging between overworking and collapsing, between strict control and giving up, you know this pattern. Balance can feel unfamiliar, but it's deeply kind. Tonight, you don't need to punish yourself into peace. You can choose just enough, and let that be wise. For 1 minute, relax your shoulders and ask, what is the balanced next step? Name it simply. Then let your eyes grow heavy and let the body settle. Story 66. Near the river at Uruvela, the Buddha met Kassapa, a respected leader with many followers. Kassapa was proud of his rituals and certain of his power. He wasn't looking for change. He was guarding his position. The Buddha stayed nearby, calm and unthreatening, and the days unfolded. Over time, Kassapa saw a steadiness that didn't need display. He watched the Buddha meet praise and challenge with the same quiet mind. When Kassapa's confidence finally softened, he listened. The Buddha guided him towards seeing how the senses can burn when fueled by craving and hostility, not as a punishment, but as a clear description of what many hearts feel. Kassapa recognized the burning in himself, the inner heat that never fully rests. His pride loosened, and something simpler took its place. He chose a new direction, and many followed. If your life has felt like it's on fire with deadlines, money concerns, and constant noise, you know that burning. And if you've tried to solve it with more control, it often burns hotter. Tonight, you can cool the fire by not adding fuel. Let the mind stop throwing sticks into the flames for 2 minutes. Soften your face and imagine cool air moving through your chest. On each exhale, let one worry fall away, like ash settling to the ground. Story 67 inches, the streets. A man named Sunita worked as a sweeper, often ignored as people passed. He carried a quiet shame. Like many people who feel unseen at work, he stayed to the edge, making himself small. The Buddha saw him and approached without hesitation. He spoke with respect, not as a favor, but as a recognition of dignity. Sunita's eyes filled, and his breath caught. Surprised by being treated as fully human, the Buddha welcomed him into training. Beyond social rank, he guided him toward a life built on conduct, attention, and inner freedom. Sunita's shoulders relaxed, as if a heavy label slid off his back. He practiced sincerely, and his mind grew clearer and steadier. People who once looked away began to look again, differently. The story carried a simple truth, that the heart is not owned by status. If you've felt invisible, undervalued, or stuck at the bottom of someone else's ladder, you know that ache. Your worth is not a paycheck, a title, or someone's opinion. Tonight, you can belong to yourself again. Let your inner voice speak with respect. For 1 minute, place a hand on your heart and say, I am a human being, and I matter. Then let your body sink into the bed. like it finally has permission to take up space. Story 68 inches, the quiet of evening. A monk came to the Buddha with a trembling honesty. He had been assigned to live in a forest place, and fear kept rising at night. Every sound became a threat. Every shadow became a story. He felt embarrassed, like an adult afraid of the dark. The Buddha listened without laughing, without pushing him away. He guided the monk to rely on a clean life and steady attention as a kind of protection. When you live without harming, the heart has fewer hidden corners. He also guided him to meet fear directly, without feeding it with extra imagining. To notice the body, the breath, the actual sounds as they are. The monk felt his chest loosen, like a window cracked open. He began to see that fear grows when the mind runs ahead of the moment, and that courage can be quiet, simply staying present. If you've lain in bed listening for problems, scanning your future, you know that tense vigilance. The mind thinks it's protecting you, but it only exhausts you. Tonight, you can let the room be just a room. Let sounds be sounds, not alarms. For 2 minutes, name softly what you hear. Fan, traffic, silence, without adding a story. Then let your shoulders drop and allow the night to be ordinary again. Story 69. On a calm day, a wanderer named Vakshagota came to the Buddha with a sharp question. He wanted a simple answer about the self, something he could hold like a badge. The room felt tense with expectation, like waiting for a final verdict. The Buddha did not give the quick answer Vakshagota demanded. He remained silent, not to be mysterious, but to avoid pushing the man into confusion. Later, Ananda asked about this, and the Buddha explained carefully. Some answers, if given the wrong way, make the mind cling tighter or panic more. So he guided attention towards seeing experience directly, without building a rigid me around it, not as a philosophy to argue, but as a relief from constant self-concern. When you stop gripping me, the heart breathes. Ananda understood, and the teaching landed like a soft weight, leaving the shoulders. If you've been stuck in self-criticism, self-image, self-comparison, you know how loud me can be. It turns bedtime into a stage and a courtroom. Tonight, you can rest from that. Let experience be simple. Warmth, weight, breath, without making it a story about you. For 1 minute, notice a sensation and say, just this. Then let just this carry you gently towards sleep. Story 70 inches, the cool shade. Ananda came to the Buddha with an earnest question. He had seen how much easier practice felt when good companions were near. He wanted to name it as only part of the path, not the whole. The Buddha guided him firmly, with warmth, toward a deeper respect for friendship. Good companionship shapes your days, your choices, your habits, your courage. It helps you avoid harm, and helps you return when you drift. It makes the hard road feel less lonely. Ananda's face softened, as if he'd been given permission to lean on support. He could feel the relief of not having to do everything alone. The community felt steadier after this, more careful with how they treated each other. If you're carrying too much by yourself, you know how heavy it gets at night. Work pressure, family needs, money worries, all stacked in one chest. A good friend doesn't remove the load, but they help you set it down for a minute. Tonight, you can remember you're not alone in being human. Even listening here is a kind of companionship. So let yourself be held by this simple sense of shared room. For 1 minute, picture one supportive person or one safe place, and let your body soften as if they're nearby. Then let sleep come, like a gentle friend sitting quietly at the edge of the bed. Story 71 inches the night air near a quiet town. The Buddha sat awake, steady as a mountain. A fierce being named Alavaka came, testing him with threats and loud demands. The scene felt tense, like a room where someone is trying to push you around. Alavaka wanted power, control, and a reaction he could feed on. The Buddha did not fight with anger, and he did not shrink. He stayed calm, and he answered the questions that mattered. He pointed toward faith, clear effort, mindfulness, and living in a clean way. He guided Alavaka to see that hatred doesn't protect anyone, and that real strength is a heart that can't be bullied into cruelty. The stormy energy began to drain from the space. Alavaka's breath eased, and the sharp edge in him softened. He shifted from threatening to listening, like a door closing softly on rage. If you've dealt with an intimidating person, or an inner voice that talks harshly, you know that pressure. You don't have to match force with force. You can hold your ground with calm and clarity. Calm courage disarms what anger feeds. For 2 minutes, relax your jaw and feel your spine supported by the bed. Silently repeat, steady, on the exhale, and let your hands rest open. Story 72. On a bright day, the Buddha met Sakaka, a skilled debater who liked to corner people. Sakaka arrived confident, surrounded by onlookers, hungry for a public win. His mind was like a lawyer, always building a case, always tightening the room. He challenged the Buddha about the self, expecting to trap him. The Buddha stayed simple and direct, like clear water. He asked Sakaka to look at body and mind honestly. Can you command the body not to age, not to get sick, not to change? Can you command feelings and thoughts to stay pleasant and obedient? Sakaka had to admit the truth, that these things don't obey our wishes. You could see his certainty wobble, not from shame, but from seeing. The crowd grew quieter, and the air felt less combative. Sakaka's face softened, like someone noticing their grip has been hurting them. If you've been trying to control everything, your health, your partner, your outcomes, your reputation, you know that strain. Some control is useful, but total control is a myth that keeps you tense. Tonight, you can loosen your grip on what won't obey anyway. Life softens when you stop demanding the impossible. For 3 minutes, notice one area you've been gripping and gently whisper, "Not fully in my hands." Then feel the bed holding you, as if you're finally letting yourself be supported. Story 73 inches the morning light. The Buddha spoke to monks about staying safe around temptation. He offered an image of a turtle near the water's edge. When danger approached, the turtle pulled its limbs in and stayed protected. When it was safe, it moved freely again. The Buddha guided them to do the same with the senses. When a sight or sound pulls the mind into craving or irritation, draw back, not with fear, with wisdom, like protecting a wound from dirt. This wasn't about hating the world. It was about not being dragged by it. The monks nodded, recognizing how often they got hooked. You could feel the room calm, like everyone understood a practical tool. If your phone, your inbox, your news feed, or certain conversations keep catching you, you know that hook. You don't have to wrestle the hook every time. Sometimes you simply pull your attention back inside your shell of steadiness. You can choose what you let inside. For 2 minutes, close your eyes and feel the inside of your hands. Each time the mind reaches outward, return to that simple sensation, like drawing the limbs back in gently. Story 74 inches, a quiet hall. The Buddha noticed some monks feeling discouraged about their progress. They compared themselves, and the comparison made their minds tight and small. They wanted quick results, like a deadline that should already be met. The Buddha guided them with an image of gradual training, like the ocean deepening little by little, not dropping off all at once, like a craft learned through steady practice, not a single burst of effort. He reminded them that growth often looks ordinary, repeated, and unseen, and that impatience can be its own kind of suffering, because it rejects the pace of life. The monks breathed more easily, like they'd been allowed to be learners again. Their shoulders lowered, and their faces softened. If you've been working hard and still feel not enough, at your job, in parenting, in a relationship, you know this ache. You can still aim high without using your aim as a weapon. Tonight, let the path be gradual, and let that be okay. Steady steps beat frantic leaps. For 3 minutes, choose one small habit you can repeat tomorrow. One email, one task, one kind moment. Done cleanly. Picture doing it slowly. Then let your body relax, as if the plan is safe. Story 75. One evening, a monk came to the Buddha with a mind full of doubts. He said his thoughts argued with each other until he felt split in two. Part of him wanted peace. Part of him wanted certainty before he could begin. The Buddha guided him to notice how doubt can become a habit of delaying, like standing at the riverbank, endlessly measuring the water, never crossing. He did not demand blind belief. He encouraged the monk to test the path in small, honest ways, to see what happens when you act with restraint, speak truthfully, and steady attention. Doubt softened when it met real experience, not endless theorizing. The monk's face eased, like the jaw unclenching after a long day. He began to practice with more simplicity, less arguing. If you've been stuck in decision fatigue, weighing options until you're exhausted, you know this loop. Sometimes the mind uses more thinking to avoid one small step. Tonight, you can rest from that. You don't think your way into peace. You practice your way into it. For 2 minutes, pick one small next step for tomorrow and say it in one sentence. Then stop. Place your hand on your chest and let your mind be done for the night. Story 76 inches, a shaded grove. The Buddha spoke to monks about the kinds of thoughts that visit the mind. Some thoughts, he said, lead toward craving, ill will, and harm. Other thoughts lead toward letting go, kindness, and harmlessness. He guided them to notice the difference, quietly, in their own bodies. One kind of thought tightens the chest and sharpens the face. The other kind leaves the mind clearer and the heart lighter. He encouraged them to feed what leads to peace, and to stop feeding what leads to trouble, not with self-hatred, but like tending a garden. You pull weeds. You water what you want to grow. The monks felt relief, because it was practical and kind. If your mind has been replaying a grudge or fantasizing control, you know how it steals sleep. You can't stop thoughts from showing up, but you can stop setting the table for them. Tonight, you can choose what you feed. What you repeatedly feed becomes your mood. For 3 minutes, notice one unhelpful thought and label it softly. Weed. Then bring up one simple, kind intention for tomorrow, and rest your attention there until your face softens. Story 77. Near a quiet river crossing. The Buddha spoke about what we carry from place to place. People often carry identity like a heavy bundle. I am this. I am that. And when the bundle is threatened, the mind panics. He guided his listeners to see how clinging to labels creates fear, not by erasing personality, but by loosening the grip. Roles change. Money changes. Health changes. Reputation changes. When you cling too tightly, change feels like a personal attack. When you hold more lightly, change is still hard, but less crushing. The faces around him softened, like everyone felt the truth in their own life. If you've been carrying your job title into bed, or carrying a relationship story like a verdict, you know that weight. You don't have to drop your responsibilities tonight. You only have to stop gripping your identity as if it's the only thing you are. You are bigger than your roles. For 2 minutes, silently set down one label. Worker, fixer, provider, failure, perfect one. Feel your body without that label. Just breathing, just resting, just human. Story 78 inches, a forest dwelling. A group of monks became unsettled by frightening experiences at night. The darkness felt crowded, and their minds started telling scary stories. They left the forest and went to the Buddha for help. The Buddha listened calmly, like someone who knows fear and doesn't mock it. He guided them toward goodwill as a way to change the inner atmosphere, to spread friendliness in all directions, like a warm light filling a room, not to control spirits or shadows, but to steady the heart. The monks returned, carrying that friendliness like a shield without edges. The forest felt different, less threatening, more ordinary. They slept more easily, because their minds weren't armed for battle anymore. If you felt uneasy at night, scanning for problems, you know that same tension. A friendlier inner tone can make your whole body feel safer. You don't have to force calm. You can offer kindness first, and let calm follow. A gentle heart lives in a gentler world. For 2 minutes, place a hand on your heart and silently wish, "May I be at ease." Then extend it softly. "May all beings be at ease." And let your shoulders sink down. Story 79. On a day of travel, the Buddha met a man who was proud of harsh practices. He believed pain would purify him, and he judged others for living normally. His face was tight, like someone who mistakes strain for strength. The Buddha guided him toward balance, without ridicule. He pointed out that tormenting the body doesn't automatically quiet the mind, and that comfort chasing doesn't heal the mind either. He directed the man toward a middle way of steady discipline and clear attention. Not extreme, not sloppy, just workable and kind. The man's posture softened, like he'd been bracing for a fight. He could feel that his harshness had been another kind of clinging. He left with less pride and more practicality. If you've been too strict with yourself, or swinging between strictness and giving up. You know this. Harshness feels like control, but it often creates more inner noise. Tonight, choose the gentler strength of balance. Balance is the quiet strength that lasts. For 3 minutes, relax your brow and ask, where am I pushing too hard? Name one place to ease by 10% tomorrow. Then let your body melt into the bed. Story 80 inches, a quiet place among the monks. A man named Channa carried a stubborn pride. He spoke harshly, dismissed others, and acted as if correction was an insult. It strained the community, like a constant low-level noise. The Buddha guided the monks to respond firmly, without cruelty. They stopped feeding Channa's arrogance with attention and arguments. Over time, the loneliness of his own behavior became clear to him. He felt the cost, the isolation that pride buys in secret. His posture softened, and his voice lost some sharpness. He began to turn back toward humility and learning. The community could breathe again, like tension leaving the room. If you've been clinging to being right, or guarding your ego at work or at home, you know how tiring it is. Pride looks strong, but it often hides fear. Tonight, you can choose softness without losing dignity. Humility is not shrinking. It's relaxing the armor. For 2 minutes, loosen your jaw and whisper, I don't have to be right to be okay. Then picture one small apology or gentle repair you could make. And let sleep arrive before the mind starts debating again. The stories have been told now, one by one, like small candles set along a dark path. Not candles meant to impress, just enough light to help you feel your own next step, and then to let that step go. If you can still hear my voice, you are doing perfectly. And if you can't, if you are already floating somewhere soft, then this is simply a gentle blessing drifting after you, like warm air after a door closes. Tonight, nothing needs to be solved. Nothing needs to be proven. Nothing needs to be carried all the way to morning. Let the mind be like a river, slowing as it reaches a wide, open bend. At first it may still rush, still swirl, still tug at old stones, but even a rushing river eventually finds the ocean. Even a busy mind eventually meets a deeper quiet. Somewhere in you, beneath the planning and replaying, there is a calm that has never been harmed. It has been covered. Yes, like moonlight behind a cloud, but it is still there, always. So now, let your attention drift to what is simple, the gentle rise of your breathing, the soft fall, like waves, coming in, going out, nothing to measure, nothing to manage, just the steady rhythm of being alive. If you notice tension anywhere, you don't have to fight it. Just let it be seen. Like a candle, noticing the air around its flame. Let the forehead smooth. Let the jaw loosen. Let the shoulders settle down, as if they are finally allowed to stop holding the world up. Let the hands rest, the way leaves rest on water. Open, unclenched, at peace with not gripping. And if thoughts come, let them come. If they fade, let them fade. Like clouds passing across a wide sky. You do not have to chase any of them. You do not have to push any of them away. They can float through, and you can remain the sky. You can remain the quiet behind them. Tonight, the lesson is not a sentence. It is a feeling like setting down a bag you forgot you were carrying. A feeling like taking off shoes at the door. A feeling like sitting beside a small lamp and realizing you do not have to keep walking. You have already arrived. The world outside may still be moving. Phones charging. Streetlights humming. Tomorrow waiting in the distance. But you do not have to go there right now. Right now. You are here. Right now. You are safe enough to soften, like an ocean at night, wide and dark and calm, like a river that no longer needs to hurry, like a candle that doesn't strain to be bright. It simply glows. Maybe there was a moment in the stories that touched you, a small turning, a quiet release, not a dramatic change, just a little less tightness, just a little more space. If so, let that be enough. You don't need to remember it perfectly. You don't need to hold on to it like a rule. Let it sink into you the way moonlight sinks into a room, quietly, without effort. If today was heavy, let it become lighter now. Not because the day didn't matter, but because your body deserves rest. Your heart deserves rest. Even your mind, that hard-working mind, deserves to stop clocking overtime. Let the day be a jar that has been shaken, and now, at last, placed gently on the table. The dust can settle. The dust will settle. You don't have to shake it again to check. Just let it settle. Feel the bed holding you. Feel how the mattress does the work without asking for credit. How the pillow receives your head without needing anything back. How the night wraps around you without questions. You can let yourself be held. You can let yourself be cared for. If you find yourself trying to do sleep, let that effort relax. Sleep is not a job. It's a returning to the simplest kind of trust. Like floating, like being carried by water, like leaning into the arms of something larger than your thoughts. And if you wake later, even for a moment, that's okay. The moon will still be there. The sky will still be there. Your breath will still be there. You can return again. The same gentle way. No scolding. No drama. Just returning. Now. The words can grow fewer. The spaces can grow longer. Let your breathing become the story. Let the silence become the teacher. Let the quiet become your home. You are not alone in this moment, even if the room is empty. You are part of something wide and living. The same air moving in you moves through trees. The same moonlight touches rooftops, oceans, and your closed eyes. The same rhythm of change that carries rivers to the sea also carries you, gently, into rest. So let go. A little more. Let go of the face you had to wear today. Let go of the questions that don't need answers tonight. Let go of the ways you tried so hard. Let go of the ways you fell short. Let go of the tight fist of control. Let go into the wide sky. Let go into the quiet ocean. Let go into the kindness of this breath. And if you want one final permission, here it is. You may rest. You may stop. You may be held. You may sleep. Good night, friend. And now, a soft exhale into silence.